We are living in very crucial times. The political systems of the world have failed us. Socialism has failed. The capitalism is failing. Tribalism, nationalism that have plagued the Muslim world and the oppressed people throughout the planet have failed in bringing about unity and love and cooperation and the type of a world that we could live in as human beings, live a good existence with our fellow human beings and pass through this world. And Allah has also blessed us with the last messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. And when he spoke to the Sahaba, he not only spoke to them concerning their affairs, but he spoke to them concerning times that would come in the future. And in one hadith which is reported by Imam as-Suyuti in Al-Jami al-Saghir, Abu Hurairah radiallahu an reports that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, there would come in the end of time great liars to the point where they are false Christs, claiming to be false prophets, would lead you astray. And they will come to you with a type of speech that you nor your parents have ever heard of before. Beware that they take you astray. Beware that they put you into a fitna, a trial, and a temptation. We begin to see the climax of a major change in society, the climax of a new world order. And we are witnessing today, with the advent of the new technology, that human beings have the ability to send information throughout the planet simultaneously. We have the ability to witness events here in Australia that could be happening in other parts of the world. In Europe, we could witness these events. But at the same time, we can be confused simultaneously. The whole world can be lied to at once. To put together images and sounds and to develop this story, which although it is not true, appears to be true. They will come to you with a type of speech that you nor your parents have ever heard of before. Sadaqa Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. But at the same time, we begin to see the climax of a major change in society, the climax of a new world order. And we begin to see a type of integration between information technology and trade. We begin to see the economy, politics, culture, and ideology being transported simultaneously from nation to nation. And with this technology, with the ability to transport ideas, the very value systems of people, the way that they eat, what they enjoy to do, how they enjoy recreation, their racial concepts, their culture, their ideology being transported all around the world, a type of globalization. And with this boom in the information technology, and with this major event that takes place, now it comes to a culmination, and it starts to reach a high point. And so the innocent people, we look at this, and we say, what is going on? What is happening to the world that had so many different varying views, different nations, different ways of approaching things that can complement each other? Now we see politics is stripped of real power, that the economy governs all social exchange. We see that the states serve the financial power structures, that the real power is no longer in the hands of the generals, but the real power now switching to the hands of the people who run the economy, to the banking systems. And then we see that politicians play the role of public relations officers only to control the masses by lulling them to sleep. And then we see that the masses of the people become helplessly preoccupied. Their lives are now bombarded with a series of cultural events. And these cultural events start to become the most important things in their lives. The World Cup, the Major League Series, the rugby, the cricket, the hockey, the tennis. Whatever the sport may be, we see whole nations coming behind sports. And the national heroes become sporting people. Even in Saudi Arabia, even in our own Muslim countries, the national heroes are now the soccer players. Who kicks the little ball inside of a net? He becomes the hero of the nation when people are dying on the ground. But yet we become preoccupied with this. And it becomes a type of indoctrination happening to us. And with the use of powerful music playing on our emotions, with videos now being taken to the furthest extremes in the planet, people's thinking processes are changing. People are now in love with the superheroes, even confused about their own identity, trying to change themselves, change the color of their hair, change their eyes, change the way they dress, change the way they talk, on a global level. And then we see drug addiction reaching a point that humanity has never seen before. And after traveling to over 36 countries, looking at the Muslims and being with them, I have found that in all of the communities that the young people are being confused with drugs. It is pouring into our countries and give you a false dependence so that you become dependent on the chemical. You forget about Allah. Your God becomes the chemical. And so creating this dependency amongst the masses of the people. And then we see lethal social diseases being spread. And it is said that in Southern Africa, and Allah knows best what this really is, but they say that in some parts of Southern Africa, 1 out of every 4 people is HIV positive. It has reached this level. Now, whatever this HIV is, there's a lot of theories. Whether it is some germ warfare, whether it is a type of corruption, but whatever it is, it's killing us. Then we see the planet malfunctioning. The air is becoming polluted. The water is becoming polluted. The animals are dying. They are cutting down the rainforests. They are destroying forms of life. And now we are getting strange forms of cancer that we have never seen before. And it is happening all over the planet. And so what is happening in front of us? When people begin to speak out, when they try to protest what is going on, even in a legal way they are protesting, they find themselves either swamped with false information coming out of the technology, they find themselves in a state of fear. And we, the innocent people, trying to look at the world and trying to understand what is going on, we see everything is moving toward one world state, one world police force, one world bank, and one world unelected elite that rules over us not based upon the will of the people or democracy, but rules over because of control of the bank, control of the economy and the flow of the money, which is changing every day, changing from gold and silver to paper to plastic. And now they are trying out chips. They're putting chips in somebody's head. They tried it in Florida. And if you can take anything from me, don't ever let anybody put a chip inside of you. Don't let them do it to you, man. A microchip. And they say, no, it can do you a lot of good. If you're diabetic, it will say you're diabetic. And then they showed us this picture, they show us this movie or this commercial how this chip can play itself out. And there's an old woman inside of the store, and she's shopping in the store, and the young guy is next to her stealing things. He's putting it in her clothes, in his clothes, and she says, oh my God, he's stealing. And he fills his clothes with food and items, and he runs out the store, and the old woman is in shock. And then the attendant, the clerk, runs behind the man and says, you forgot your receipt. He had a chip inside of it. And when he went through that barrier, it recorded his bank account, the money that he took out the store, everything simultaneously happened. And then she said, you forgot your receipt. What a beautiful world it would be. What a beautiful world. But the problem we're facing is, what else can happen with that chip? What else can be done to the chip? Your emotions could be controlled. Your mind could be controlled. In the earlier decades, people wrote about this. George Orwell wrote about, you saw 1984. You saw people talking about animal farms, talking about Big Brother. They wrote about this before. Now it is coming to pass. And there are so many theories about this. We are bombarded with this. We see people talking about the Freemason order, the Illuminati, the international bankers, alien consciousness. Even some groups are coming up, Satanic type groups, New Age type religions. All of these coming up, and what we find in most cases is that all of these groups are worshiping a force. If you go to the highest level of these groups, you see they are doing a type of worship. It is not to God. It is not the God of Moses or Jesus or Muhammad, peace be upon them. It is another force. And they are worshiping this force. They are seeking and taking strength out of this force. And nobody can say exactly what it is, but Muslims have the bottom line. And Allah has told us the truth has come and falsehood will vanish, because surely falsehood is a perishing, vanishing thing. And so the Quran and the Hadith, the revelation, gives the Muslim the bottom line. And we need to work from the bottom line up, instead of from the confusion to the bottom line. And when we go to the bottom line, we find that the Quran talks about in the beginning of time, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created the creations, and then he created Adam alayhi salam. And he turned to his angels, and amongst the angels was a jinni named Iblis. May Allah protect us from him. There was a jinni amongst them who was so pious and so knowledgeable, he was given a place with the angels. The angels could not disobey Allah. And so Allah told them in the oft repeated verses, he told them, bow down to Adam. And all of them bow down except Iblis. And Surah Al-Kahf told us he was jinni. He was not a fallen angel. He refused to bow down. Why did he not bow down? You made me from fire, and you made him from clay. Arrogance and pride. And you could say he was a racist, because he didn't want to accept Adam. Not because of anything that he or Adam did, but because merely of the creation of Adam alayhi salam. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed him and sent him down and promised him hellfire. But the Shaytan, wal-iyadhu billah, asked for respite. He asked for a chance to come to the creation. And he made it clear, and the Quran tells us very clearly that he said, I will come around them on their right side, on their left side, above them. I will make them change the creation of Allah. And in one of the verses, and there are so many, so much truth which is in front of us, if we would read this book, not just to read it for the knowledge, read it for the guidance in the world that we are living in today. And so Allah told us, O people, eat from the earth that which is permissible and wholesome, that which is good, and do not follow the footsteps of the Shaytan, for he is to you an open enemy. Verily, he will command you with immorality and evil, sexual immorality, And He will also command you to say about Allah that which you know not. In another verse, Allah tells us that He will threaten you with poverty, and He commands you with immorality, with corruption. He commands you with this. And so we see certain themes. Put these themes in your mind when you think about the international system. What are the foundations of the system that we are all living under? The fear of poverty, evil, corruption. And then we see also in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah tells us, O you who believe, surely intoxicants and gambling and sacrificing at the idols and telling the fortune with arrows, all of this is an evil abomination from the work of the devil. Stay away from it in order that you would be successful. Surely the Shaytan wants to put in between you hatred and animosity by using intoxicants and gambling, and to block you from the remembrance of Allah and from your salat. So will you not then stop? Allah tells us, won't you stop? But what did the evil one put in front of us? Look at the categories that are in front of us. Evil. Go to the movie and see. The hero of half of the movies is a criminal. The thieves and the bandits are now the heroes that people, young people especially, are idolizing. Look at the music. Look at the expression coming out of the anarchy and the music in the younger generation. Then look at now the world. Immorality. And then you see it in the movies, you see it in the programs. And some of our own Muslims are watching, especially sisters are watching during the day. They watch Days of Our Life and soap operas and, you know, who's sleeping with whose neighbor and stuff like that. And then they even tape the program. Yeah? They tape the program so they can see it when they come home. This practice in Muslims, man. It's unbelievable, man. And so then you see it happening. Drugs, al-khamar. Because intoxicants includes not only alcohol, it also includes drugs. The cocaine, the heroin, the crack, the LSD, that which covers up your intelligence. All of this is in it, right inside of our book. So now let us look at a modern society. What happens on Friday night? When a person wants to enjoy themselves, where do they enjoy themselves? Where do they think they have to go to? The majority of the people say, well, first, my Friday, I got to get a drink. Let me take a smoke. I got to get ready now for the night. And then they're off for the night. How do you enjoy yourself? Where are people going to? Casino life, gambling, and the gambling will destroy you. You see what it says here? It is a filth. It is an abomination from the work of the devil. Stay away from it. But no, the roulette wheel. They play all the one-armed bandit, the dice, the cards, and they keep thinking, I'm gonna win, I'll go back tomorrow, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win, and the Shaytan plays on their mind and destroys their families, destroys the society. But it's considered to be okay, he's just enjoying himself, or he's just drunk. But what causes most of the accidents on the highway? And you'll probably find it is alcohol. It is people being intoxicated, toxic. You're being poisoned. It poisons the system, throws off your balance, changes your way of thinking. And then always this erotica, this Greek concept now coming in, where the body, people worship the body. The shape of the body being the most important thing. And the young woman feels she must show something from her body in order to be acceptable. She exposes her body and thinks that she's modern, or thinks that she's intelligent and she has self-esteem because she's exposing her inner parts even to her enemies. And up until now, with years of so-called women's liberation, they are still selling cars with beautiful girls. Lamborghini, the Porsche, they're still doing that, exploiting the sexuality of women. in order to sell products. And in the last part of this verse, also shirk, the polytheism, worshiping other gods, and fortune telling. And people are involved in superstition, getting their palms read, going to people, to the magic people in order to get married, or in order to hurt somebody, or in order to be successful in business, afraid of numbers, afraid of 11, afraid of 13, afraid of 666. And so fear is placed in the hearts. Superstition is placed in the hearts. And behind it, a lying deceiver. You think you're going to paradise. You think you're enjoying yourself. But the alcohol and intoxicants is killing your body. Lethal social diseases is cutting down your population. Gambling is ruining the family, ruining communities. But it's done in the name of progress and democracy and the 21st century. And the Quran also tells us that Shaytan will say when the matter is decided. And this is a picture in Jahannam. And they see the Shaytan, but you promised us. You promised us the promise of truth. And he said, I had no authority over you, but I called you and you came. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told to the Shaytan and made it clear, wal-iyadu billah, that surely amongst my slaves, my worshippers, you will have no authority over them except those who follow you from the evil doers, except those who submit to you and submit to this system. And so we find ourselves Muslims and non-Muslims, people of conscience, people of goodness, who knew this world 30 or 40, 50 years ago, who knew their generations, knew their grandparents, and see the social fabric of society falling apart, racism on the rise, and then they are accusing Muslims. Why are they accusing us of this? Let's go to the bottom line. And what you have to realize, if behind all of these secret societies is the evil one, is the Shaytan, wal-iyadu billah, then he will attack the holders of truth. That if you are talking and living the revelation, you become an enemy to the evil one, wal-iyadu billah. And so the reality is that we must never forget, that Muslims must never forget that Islam is the real solution for this planet. We hold the solution in our hands. We hold it in our hearts. And we need to practice this now. Never forget who you are. But you have to realize that we have an interest-free economy. That if Allah blesses us with a state, we would establish a cooperative society which is not capitalism, it is not socialism. The banks will lend you money with no interest. It will be a cooperative system where if you have land and the bank gives you money, if your project succeeds, you both succeed. If your project fails, you both fail. Now, if you borrow money, if you fail, the bank wins and you fail. How many people know the pressure of living under a mortgage or a bond? It follows you all your life. Some people pay the bond for 20 years, hard labor, and then when they can't pay, their house is taken away from them. Some of them never live to see the fruits of their labor. It is burnt up in papers. And so an interest-free cooperative society. And if our sheikhdoms, if our rich leaders would take their money out of these interest banks and put it into an Islamic economy, we would change the face of this earth. That, for many people, is the bottom line. But don't forget also that within our understanding is the true belief in one God, with no confusion, no human beings as God, no idols as God, no confusion about your creator, but a way to communicate without a pope, without a bishop, Each individual can communicate, male or female, can communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also have strong families. And Islam is telling us, and never forget, and try within your lifetime, that father and mother try to eat with your children. Establish your family so that the children are eating with their parents. Spend time, father, spend time with your children. Mother, spend time. Don't spend all your time chasing the dollar, chasing something which will rise and fall in the twinkling of an eye. But we encourage the strong institution of the family. We also have a clear identity for male and female. And if we are practicing Islam, we should not be confused if we're a man or a woman. We also have a cure for racism, that you don't look at the color of a person's skin, not on their language, not on the texture of their hair, but it is taqwa. It is the piety, it is the God consciousness. That is how you should judge an individual. We also have a holistic science that would take us into an era of science whereby the scientist would think of the Creator. That in using technology, we would not be destroying life, but enhancing life, developing the earth, and not just developing plastics and trying to make more money with our science and technology. And so, with a system that is so clear and honest and straightforward, why are we under attack? That is the job of deception. And the deception has come in this new globalization form, this spread of technology. It is now shifted to us, trying to make us into an evil force. But never forget that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he was called Majnoon, crazy. He was called Sahir, a magician. He was called a Kahin, a wizard. He was called Sha'ir, a poet. They used many names for him. They persecuted him. They tried to destroy his family. They tried to destroy his society. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power over all things. They want to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, with their information. But Allah will complete His light, even though the disbelievers despise it. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would guide our leaders, would guide our communities, would protect our families. May Allah protect the women and the children of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah give strength and protect the men of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah give the true vision of Islam to those who are not Muslim. May Allah take away the veils from their eyes and see that Islam is the real solution to the problems of this world. And let the Muslims see victory and begin to see the light. And may Allah give us the best. If we cannot see it in this world, give us the best in the hereafter. Have mercy upon us and enter us into paradise.